everybody, and welcome to yet another live session by Klay. I am Divya Balan. I head marketing for Klay, and apart from being a marketer at Klay, I'm also a parent to two children, age 2 and 7. And I'm here to discuss one of our favorite topics as parents, right? How do we nurture independence in our children? We've always been told that it's best in the best interest of our children. We need to let go, right? For them to develop into an independent person in all aspects of their lives, whether it means independent eating, independent learning, independent play, independent sleeping, right? So we've always, as parents, wanted our children to become an independent themselves, right? At the same time, we've always been confused as to where to stop, where to let go, where to handhold. So here we are in this panel discussion to talk about this and more. But before I get to introducing our panelists, at Klay, we are always proud at the fact that we are here not to just develop children to learn literacy and numeracy, but we are here to develop our children in a very holistic way. And one of the big skills that we look to impart is how do we make them independent, right? Whether it is independence in terms of thinking, inquiry-based learning is a big aspect of how children learn in our Klay classrooms. Whether it's independent eating, and they all sit together, community dining, and they sort of, use their own hands and their own muscles to sort of chew the food and eat. Whether it's independent sleeping, right? I mean, they have their own space to go to sleep, and we strongly believe in creating such not just physical self-help skills, but also social and emotional self-regulation skills, which makes them an independent young adult when they move out of play. And the basic philosophy on which the curriculum is based at Klay is on the fact that children choose to learn the way they wish to learn, the way they are best at learning at, right? So, and we're really glad that parents realize this more when they actually leave Klay and go to a bigger school, when they realize that the child is more independent, is able to stand up and express confidently on what they need and what they want, right? So without much ado, I would like to get into the panel discussion and introduce our set of panelists here to talk about this very interesting topic on how to nurture independence in children. First up, I would like to introduce Pooja Sriram, Pooja is a Klay parent and a very strong, active parent voice in India. She's part of the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program and has her own blog, Yajur Chronicles. Yajur is her son, where she captures a parenting journey in a candid and educational manner. She's also the author of 2 children's books and hopes to write more. Welcome, Pooja, to our show.
Hey, thank you so much, Divya. That's a lovely introduction. And I'm just so happy to be part of this panel and represent mothers, parents who are all nurturing resilient kids.
Thank you, Pooja. You truly are the voice of the moms out here on this in the audience. Next up is our own personal expert, our favorite in-house expert, Meghna Yadav. Meghna is a child psychologist and a family counselor who leads parent partnership initiatives at Klay Preschools and Daycare. As the head of IECED, she also leads training and development at Klay. She has been working with children and families of various countries for the last 2 decades. Welcome onto the panel, Meghna.
Thank you so much, Divya, and my warm regards to everyone present over here. All I can say is you sitting here participating in this discussion talks volume about your involvement as a parent. Hats off to that.
Thank you, Meghna. It's a pleasure to have you as always. Next up is another Pooja and another expert here. Is Pooja Singhania, Dr. Pooja Singhania, excuse me there. Pooja is an R&D nutritionist and a certified infant and young child feeding counseling specialist by BPNI. She has more than 10 years of experience in R&D, nutrition education and diet counseling. She is the nutrition consultant for Klay and has been instrumental in curating healthy meals for our children across the Klay centers. Welcome on the panel, Pooja.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Divya. I am so excited about this session because I think the common thread for all of us is that we are parents too, and such sessions are going to definitely take us a step closer to being a better parent. So I'm equally excited to be a part of this panel today, sharing stage with such amazing people out here. Thank you.
Thank you, all of you for coming on board, and we shall, looking forward to an enriching 1 hour of session with all of you. So Pooja, why don't we start? Pooja, Sriram, why don't we start with you as a mom, right? What is independence meant for you? What has been your journey of raising an independent, resilient child when it comes to your journey?
Nice. I think independence for adults is very different, and I won't get into that because we all have our definitions. But when it comes to kids, I've seen that little journey of 4 years. My son's now 4. So there was, seems like an era ago when I was breastfeeding him, changing his diapers, picking the clothes that he would wear that day, finding the right toys that he would play with, and, literally deciding everything for him. Today, the little boy seems to have a mind of his own. He decides a lot of things for himself, and he's not so little in his own ways. So he's sure become a lot more independent. He wants to brush his own teeth. He decides what to wear. He picks the book that he wants to read. And he's also developed a taste for food that, and we know, with a bunch of interesting demands like, I want orange pasta today. So, as a working parent, I think it is a little easier for us because, a lot of these tiny decisions are made by the kids and we just have to go with the flow. And I think through this, I feel that he has turned out to be quite an independent and resilient kid. So that's how it's been as a journey for me.
Sure, Pooja, can totally resonate with that. Go with the flow. So, Meghna, I mean, where does this come from, right? How do children suddenly, decide to think that I can do this myself? I can choose. I can decide what I need for myself. So, how, and especially, what are the social, emotional cues that gets wired in their brain to sort of take such decisions?
Uh, Divya, I can very well relate with what Pooja Sriram just said because I end up meeting around 35 to 40 parents, and trust me, Pooja, you are not alone in this question. I see this happening myself, being mommy of two. I see this happening on ground as well. And you are very right in asking, Divya, that how do we notice this and why it comes up, why children exert independence. And the very basic scientific answer to that is that we all have this quest for independence. Human beings are social animals, and they really, really want to have that kind of social independence, emotional independence, and that is the root cause of development of self-esteem, self-confidence in children, which define the whole life in later years. So first thing is, exerting independence is as natural as breathing. It is us as parents who make it an issue, who really try to figure out how do I help myself, where do I stand when my child is exerting independence. But trust me, the most important aspect that we need to know as significant adults around our children, that it is as natural as breathing, and the earlier we accept it, the better it is in developing the bond between parent and children.
Sure.
Right. No, that's. I think it's like breathing is quite. I mean, it's sort of an eye-opening thing for us parents, right? We keep thinking that we need to inculcate this thing called as independence. They just naturally born with it. That's very true. Pooja, I'm sure you get asked a lot of questions on how do I make my child an independent eater. So when does independence when it comes to eating and food sort of begin?
Right. So let's first understand that the definition of being an independent eater would be very different for a parent versus a child. Okay, so by definition, we might feel that independence means the freedom to make my own choices. Okay, I mean, in a way that I am now that responsible that I can make my own decisions. Now, for a parent, typically, if you say, okay, if they want to say my child is an independent eater, it might mean that the parent thinks that this, once I give the food, this child will sit in one place, complete the entire meal without requiring much supervision or nudging, and then then it's all done. So that's independent eating for me, right? But in a child's context, it might mean that yes, I want to make a decision about my food, so then for them it would be like, depending on their age, that independence would be like a 7-month-old wanting to eat on their own, pick up food and eat. Or if it's a 12-month plus, that I'm sitting at the family table and almost eating what the family members are eating. Or if it's a toddler and they say one day that I'm just not going to try this dish, it does not appeal to me at all. So independently letting them decide, okay, yes, maybe not today, another day. And or maybe if it's a grown up, a slightly grown up child, they decided today I'm going to skip my meal altogether. So for them it might mean just exerting that choice, that I'm this is my independent choice, that this is what I know about my requirement today, and we as adults need to respect that. So I think first thing is just to understand that independence is so relative for a parent versus a child. So that first we need to take care of, and then we know how to build it or nurture it. Yeah.
No, that's very true. I mean, I think to try and instill our understanding of independence in the child is not the right thing to do. Pooja, Sriram, so when it comes to Yajur, I'm sure you must be very proud that you raised an independent child. But I'm sure there would be challenges, in this journey. And what are some of those that, if you can ask the experts and we sort of hear from them as well.
Yes, I think I'm super glad that I have experts right here who can help me. But I think with kids, independence is like a double edged sword. Like we want them to do a bunch of things on their own. And when they're ready to do it or they're doing it, we wonder if they're doing it right. And then we want to be that helicopter around and say, hey, is this right? Do it like this, change this. No, 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 you will fall. All of these things, right? So in Yajur's case, I think I love to see how he decides what to wear, actually matches his clothes and stuff. He pulls up his own socks. He picks a book according to his mood. And he doesn't, I mean, I don't even have to prompt him to go to the loo anymore. He knows, he decides when he wants to, when he shouldn't. And he's okay with that. And I'm comfortable. But there are certain times, like when we have to go for a long drive, and I want him to use the loo before we leave. So I kind of have to tell him that. Or when we want to go out or we are traveling and he wants to eat curd rice that day, he's made a decision independently and we may not be able to give it to him. Or he decides to wear like a very thin t shirt and it's super windy out there. So there are situations where his decisions or his independent thinking may not really fit in. So at that time, when I decide for him, I'm a little confused. Am I confusing him? By me deciding sometimes, and sometimes, just letting him be or ask him questions. Would you like this? Do you like to do that? So it's just that as a parent, am I doing this right? So I'm so glad I have these experts and I can ask them directly. But this is a dilemma. I want an independent kid, but what do I do to kind of, let that happen organically?
No, that's. I mean, I can resonate so much with that, right, Meghna? Even I have a toddler, and she, it's almost like I can do it myself, right? I can. You make dosas, I'll make this dosas. You mop the floor, I will mop the floor. So, I mean, where do we draw the line? How much independence is sort of right? Where do we handhold? Where do we let go? And why that do they? Why does a toddler's brain especially get wired like this to kind of just refute everything and behave in the way they think it's the right way to behave. So what is the scientific understanding behind this thing?
Well, I'll take a couple of minutes to bring the scientific angle to what you have said. And I see something that I often call as lab to land approach. What scientists research in labs, I see that happening on land. I just heard two mommies, and I'm sure many mommies sitting in audience must be resonating with what you two said. So let's try to understand this phenomenon with two major points. The first one that I would like to highlight, and you already said that, is that me do it attitude. Me do it is a phenomenon that I want to do it. I don't need your help. Don't do this for me. I can manage it on my own with those tiny little fingers and everything that I can put together to finish the task. I'll do it. And this me do it attitude is a wonderful thing for children to inculcate, to develop. And this eventually will help them in developing individuals who can take their own decisions. Now, the challenge for parents is when this me do it attitude crosses the boundary, and then it confuses, very much like what Pooja said, that is it something that I should allow, or should I take the decision on behalf of my child? Very good question, trust me. And I'm happy you asking these questions tells me that this confusion is good, because you want to seek the right answers, right? And your answer lies in a very wonderful phenomenon, which was the second point I wanted to say, is that as parents, we need to understand the thin line between hazard and risk. And this is something that we train heavily parents on, that these two words, very casual English words, but as parents, when we are talking about developing independent individuals, we need to bring the concept of hazard and risk to us, not to our children. So what you take as hazard means it can come anytime, and for sure it is not healthy for the child. For example, leaving the child on road, which is a busy road of traffic, allowing the children to play with toilet cleaners, these are hazardous things, right? So these hazards are your non-negotiables. So my friends, you sit with your partner, write down your hazards, write down the non-negotiables. And these are physical hazards. There are some emotional hazards. For example, some parents clearly tell me, Meghna, my child comes to me and says lies. I know it is a white lie, and I feel heartbroken because that is something non-negotiable for me. So you know your non-negotiables, and they come under the category of hazard. Other things come under the category of risk, and risk, I would say, healthy risk. So if you think that jumping out from 3 steps, or allowing the children to climb a bush or a tree, these are healthy risks. As long as you can allow that to happen, my friends, put them into negotiables, and then decide on your own whether should I take decision on that. So for simply to answer your question, I would say it is good to take decisions for your children when it comes into the category of non-negotiables or hazards. It is not good to take decisions for your children if they come in the category of healthy risk. You tell the risk to your children, buddy, be careful, you might hurt yourself if you jump from so high. But that does not mean that you're stopping them, right? Hey, be careful when you are climbing on that tree, it might hurt, but that does not mean you're stopping them. And this is a wonderful way to prepare them, and you coming out of the guilt that, hey, I'm taking the decision on behalf of the child. So very two loosely used terms, but help parents a lot. Know your non-negotiable, put them in the category of hazard. Other things you can put into risk, and moreover healthy risk, so that you know that yes, this is the decision I should allow to my child. One more thing about it is, my friends, which I train heavily parents on, and I have got good results about that, is that um, independence in India especially uh, is something that we take as a right. And the training for independence starts from the day the child comes to this world. And my friends, independence should not come on a platter. It is always associated, or rather, I should use the word precursor to that, is responsibility. Yeah, you have to earn your independence rather than you believe that it will be served to me on a platter. The difference between I deserve it and I earn it should be told to children from the very beginning, So, Pooja, next time your child comes to you and asks you for an orange pasta, I would say, ask the question, what did you do to earn it? Right? Why should I give this to you? What is it that you did to earn the orange pasta from me today? Did you eat healthy food for last 5 days? This is a wonderful way to be responsible to your own body. I better eat healthy so that one fine day I can eat junk. I hope I could help you a little bit, Divya and Pooja.
Absolutely, Meghna. This is gold. A lot of parents here will be so happy to know that we can use these tiny nuggets to make sure that we do parenting right.
Oh, happy to hear that. I think Pooja can help us in understanding the similar phenomenon about nutrition and food. But for sure, this is one thing that has given us great results while we work with parents of young children.
It's very interesting, Meghna. The first thing we go back and is do the list of hazards and risks, and we publish it to the child as well, right? I mean, we tell the child that this is hazardous, this is a no, this is like a no man's land, right? We go and publish it to them. Got it.
Non-negotiables for everyone in the family, Divya, not only for children. You have to have your own non-negotiables also. In fact, grandparents can play a bigger role. I met a family today morning where the grandma was telling that I cannot take sweets because it is hazardous to my body. And that's a wonderful conversation happening between a grandmom and a grandchild. And I think this is a wonderful way to tell them, hey, it's non-negotiable for me. I better not be eating it because she was diabetic.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. I mean and in fact, one of the biggest dilemma that we deal with, Pooja, is when it comes to independent eating. That I mean, I deal with this myself on a daily basis. Is the child eats till an extent and then it stops eating. So do we stop? Do we go back and feed them? Are they getting the right nutrition they need that they must be getting? So how do you sort of have that fine balance of independent eating and making sure enough nourishment goes to the child?
Absolutely. So exactly this question, and so firstly, let's understand that as Meghna ji mentioned here, that uh, as parents, we need to be very well educated and prepared for whatever is going to come in the journey for this child, right from breastfeeding, having the right knowledge of what I'm going to do, how I'm going to start, how it's going to be done, and then the transition to solids, and then the toddler journey of independent eating. So firstly, from the part of the parent, being very well planned and prepared gives that sense of empowerment, and also removes that anxiety or sort of uncertainty from the whole equation. See, secondly, it is also that like supposing we take that example of Pooja taking her son out for a travel, and here say supposing Yajur is exposed to someone who is eating junk food. Now, firstly, there are, as we discussed, that there are non-negotiables. So firstly, when you are out on a trip or traveling, what are you carrying as a family for your travel food? Okay, so that itself is firstly that talks about your family, that what do we think as being the right foods to carry during traveling. Are we really packing healthy food? Are we packing food for contingencies that we may not get good food, or we may not have healthy food available to eat? So that is one. Secondly, then what is the parent eating during travel, and what is the attitude towards the food that is being served or carried? And then when this child shows an interest in eating something unhealthy or junk, and so then you let this child, after having empowered with the right information about the food, that okay, you can make a judgment today of what whether you want to eat this or not, and in which quantity. But then you may also want to ensure you have eaten your fruit, or you have eaten the nuts we have carried, so that they know, okay, that this should be checked off before I'm looking for eating what is not so good for me. And also, talking about that at a later time, reinforcing that what you did, was it good or not good, and then could we have done it in another way, and then not at that time stopping a child would make them feel like they are being deprived of something. So we don't let them have that feeling, but we build that the foundation that they know what is good for them, and then still let them exercise the choice to probably indulge in something at certain times, and then take responsibility for that later on. So that's how we navigate through this. And there are like these few learning paradigms which we talk about in terms of independent eating. So one is familiarization. That means you have to keep exposing the child to the same kind of food again and again, so that they develop a liking for it. Okay, so it's a concept of familiarization. Second is observational learning. So that is like a no brainer, that the child is going to imitate whatever people around him or her is doing. So always the parent is going to model healthy eating behaviors, so that this child is just going to pick up that cue and subtly have it at the subconscious level, although it may not be shown immediately, but have it at the subconscious level. That is the observational learning. Then there is associative learning. So that is where you try to associate, that is, you introduce something new with something that is familiar or known. So it's like, if I know the flavor of ragi, I'm today introducing spinach into the ragi and trying that, and encouraging the child to start eating this ragi spinach now. So I'm giving something new with something that is known in flavor, or say known in terms of the satiety value, and then I'm letting that child explore that new particular food. So that is associative learning. And the fourth concept is about categorization. That means usually the child likes to start bundling things together in one category. So first distinction is just about food versus non-food. Okay, like this child, initially babies will put even erasers or toys into the mouth, not knowing whether this is edible or not. So first distinction might start there, and then gradually coming to things like, okay, this is the category of fruit, versus coming to the thing that, okay, this is a berry category, and then coming to the category, this is a cranberry. So that categorization slowly happens, and you can help that as a parent, that you start allowing the child to put it into the right pocket, that this is what it is. So these learning paradigms can be used for the child, so that they are establishing a good sort of a base for independent eating.
No, didn't know there was so much of scientific paradigm behind. I'm reminded of my pediatrician's first advice when I started solids for my child, saying, just distinguish between orange stick and a carrot. That's where you need to start with feeding. So, yeah, I mean, that's very interesting, Pooja, there. So, the last question, the last round of questions for each of you is just, we've been talking about challenges. What does independence mean? Want to hear from you on what are the solutions that kind of have worked. To start with Pooja yourself, right? I mean, what has worked for you, for your child, and for you as a working mom, right? You have other commitments as well. So, how has your techniques of raising an independent child worked for you as a working professional as well?
Yeah, I think there are many hidden benefits that you have a child that's more independent than he or she was earlier. They're not always looking for company, they're not interfering in adult time. They learn at their own pace. There's no pressure of, hey, somebody else did it, I have to do it quicker. Nothing like that. They get more creative because they try different things on their own. And I think the best thing about this little independence that kids have is that feeling of accomplishment when they do something on their own. That whole spark in their eye when they said, I did it, and I did it on my own of sorts. Right. So I think those tiny, tiny benefits has actually come up in so many daily routines for us, and we've noticed it. I've definitely learned from my own mistakes, and I've kind of seen people around, kids, how they behave, all of that to, consciously make any changes that I have to in life. And I think with both the experts today and all those golden nuggets, I will add to that. But I consciously try to, encourage independence in multiple small ways at home. We don't interfere too much when he's playing or when he's learning. So we kind of let him explore things and find his own way of doing it. A simple example could be when we draw a face. We draw a circle and then we make two eyes. But this little boy draws two eyes and then he makes a face around it. Now, nobody says it's wrong, right? But when, as a parent or as somebody, you would have just gone and corrected it. So I consciously say, hey, that's a new way of looking at something, doing something. So just let it be. Similarly, the way he holds a fork or the way he tries to poke into a watermelon piece. It's just very interesting to see how he wants to explore using that cutlery or do it that way. And when he enjoys the activity, he's bound to be more independent and use it. If I go and correct him, he'd rather say, okay, I'll sit back, you can feed me, and I can probably have screen time. Right? So it's just the whole fact that you allow the whole exploration to happen has worked in our case. And we don't correct too much because who are we? I mean, we are not experts at anything, especially with kids. They know a lot more. So it's just that we are around if he needs help. And I like the fact that he's understood that he can ask for help. When something's wrong or when something's breaking and something's actually gone wrong, like a toy broke, and then he asks for help, we're there to help him fix it and things like that. But we don't jump at that first instance. Even when he's folding clothes, it may not ever be a neatly folded t-shirt. But why not, allow it to happen. There's no risk if a t-shirt is not well folded. So I think the whole risk hazard that Meghna was talking about, somewhere we're trying to apply it, but not really in that scientific sense. And I think the whole idea of routines and what he can expect has helped that little bit of independence. So he knows we have a cuckoo clock at home. So when it rings 10 times, he knows it's 10 o'clock. Or when it rings at 8 times, he knows it's time for dinner. So there are these certain things that are built into his system that kind of already tells him what he's supposed to expect next. This is what we do at this time, or this is what I should be doing, and mom or dad are going to watch TV, and maybe I should not be doing that at this point. So just like small little things that come into a routine that helps our cause. But I think as a working mom, my time is super precious. I have a ton of things to do, but I do genuinely like being with him. So I want to be there for him, but I'm not always available. And I think he's understood that now. In fact, the first book I wrote is also called Amma's Work from Home Buddy, where kids are buddies of mothers who are working from home and who are actually helping us by being their little independent selves so we can do our own thing. So, we have tons of pretend toys. Like, even though I'm in a meeting, maybe with my video off, he's the doctor, I'm the patient, and he's doing things to me. But that's okay. I'm there, I'm his cheerleader, but he's having his independent play. Things like puzzles, a lot of DIY, drawing, craft, all of this comes to a lot of help when he's on his own right next to me playing while I'm working. And I think we have encouraged that a lot with him. And I'm sure many parents do this a lot. We all love playing with our kids, but sometimes step back and just look at how they're playing. And it'll actually kind of open your eyes to a bunch of new perspectives.
Hey, that's really well put, Pooja. Whether it is the routine aspect that you spoke about, or the fact that just holding ourselves back, I think that's the most difficult thing for us as parents, right? It's more than nurture. It's actually holding back, saying that, hey, buddy, what you're doing is also right. I wouldn't expect my standard always, because I'm still a grown up. I'm an adult, so that's really beautifully said. And at the same time, are we cheerleaders for them? It's something. Are we watching out for them? Are we having their back is important, but just step back and watch more than guiding them. Thank you for that, Pooja. Meghna, everybody's sort of waiting to hear from you, saying solutions do humko. How are we gonna keep being at it in terms of trying to raise the bar in terms of raising independent children. So what are your takeaways there? What are your solutions there?
Well, rather than me, I think the research studies, the psychologists and scientists is spending hours in researching about the best practices to build independent children. Credit goes to them. I can only share what has worked with thousands of families, children, and parents as well. But before I share some of the solutions, I would say, parents, those who are listening to us, you are unique. Your child is unique. So whatever you are hearing right now from each one of us, take it with pinch of salt. See if it fits into your thread of family functioning. See if it fits into your child's personality. Then only try to adapt some of the measures that we are sharing right now. Because trust me, it is very child specific, family specific answer. But if I have to give a general answer, I can share some phenomenon or some points with you which you can try to adapt because it has worked for thousands of families. Why not yours? So the very first thing that I would say, and I say this 100 times to parents who are very determined to develop independent children, is that, my friend, please be ready. And both Pooja and Divya just highlighted that it is easier said than done. When you are in the process of developing independent children and allowing them to do their task, uh, we have seen this coming to us multiple times, that children will take twice the time that you take and thrice the mess that they will create. I repeat, twice the time and thrice the mess. So, are you ready? First thing, ask yourself, am I ready? Am I prepared enough to go on this path? Is this journey mine? Because that's very important. It's a bumpy road. You will have struggles, you will have areas where you will check your patience like anything. Children will throw 100 opportunities where you check your patience. Are you ready for this game? So the first thing to do is to talk to yourself as a parent, that is it really one wish of mine that I want to develop independent children? And if the answer is yes, then develop the solutions around it. But one thing which can help you in taking this decision, my friends, is that, which is a time and again proven, is a dependent child is a demanding child. Dependent children end up asking a lot of things in terms of support, in terms of developmental tasks, in terms of academic tasks. So are you ready for that another route also? Because dependent children are demanding, so don't forget that. Now take your very well informed decision, and if the decision is tilting towards developing independent children, then have these things ready and handy with you. The first thing, and especially those mommies who have young children, I would say, if you have infants, this is the right time you are hearing this conversation, because infants and toddlers, we recommend parents to work on schedules, and preschoolers and above, we recommend to work on routine. What are these two different things? Schedule versus routine. Schedule is a bird eye view, the larger picture of the day, the meals that you take, the nap times that you give to your children. So, for infants and toddler parents, focus on bringing a schedule in your child's life. If you have celebrated the third birthday of your child, then focus on bringing the routine. Routine is breaking down the schedule in small parts. So, for example, my schedule is asking me to brush my teeth at the night time. Then my routine will tell me very clearly that I have to do it soon before going to bed. My routine will tell me I open the paste, I take the brush on my own, I put the paste on the brush and then brush my teeth in the right fashion, and then I clean up my face, clean up my body, and then change my night dress and go to bed. This is routine, step by step. So try to bring this down in your child's life after you celebrate the third birthday. One more important thing that I would like to share over here. There are multiple things, but something very close to my heart is what we call as TTT. TTT, parents, is a wonderful thing to invest in. Take time for training. None of us came in this world with the training of how to eat by fork or spoon. We only came with the sucking reflex. We were trained biologically that we can take mommy's milk, right? After that, everything is learning. So take time in training your children. You have to have that approach before allowing them to jump into this, that, hey, buddy, finish it off. I have a meeting next minute. You better finish it within 2 minutes. 92% of the time, parents end up shouting at children in the morning hours on an accidental spill of milk because somebody has to attend a meeting. And that's natural. You, me, everybody has done that. So, my friends, take time for training. Now, how do you use this training part, right? The best thing to develop independent children is to involve them in daily chores and stop calling them as daily chores because they sound very mundane and boring. Most of the psychologists nowadays call it family contributions. You ask your children to contribute in family, whether it is decision making for buying groceries, or it is the mundane task of folding laundry, or it is just baking a cake together. Try to bring your children on that. I always say this: if you are running short of time, parents, and if God has given you only 10 minutes with your child, instead of reading a book for your child, bake a cake. Instead of watching TV show with your child, I would heavily recommend you to fold the laundry with the child. And these are the things where, when you're telling your children very clearly that not only you are learning the day-to-day living of human life, but you are responsible for your stuff. Easier said than done, but try to inculcate this. It will go a long, long way in your parenting style. And I heavily see this happening among parents. We end up having this urge. So my last point, but very important point to all the parents listening over there: it is very tempting to support your children. It is very tempting to do tasks for your children. It is very tempting to help your children, be it a math puzzle, be it just simply drawing like Pooja highlighted the eyes and the face, right? So I would say heavily, please keep this in mind. Control this urge. Control this urge to support your children. Easier said than done, but you will see the impact, because if you can resist this temptation of supporting your children when they are struggling, you end up developing children who know how to help themselves. And my friends, you will not be there with your children all the time. You will not be there when you say goodbye to them on school bus to support them. And the training starts from home. So don't forget, control your urge to support them.
Hey, thanks, Meghna. Some really interesting nuggets there. The difference between schedule and routine. Take time to train, and the morning milk spill. All of us are guilty, and it gets even difficult when it happens almost every other day, right? And you get up in the morning and we make peace stuff and saying we won't do it today, but you're right. I think we need to look at them separately as their learning journey to become independent, and not mix our sort of apprehensions and commitments there. Thank you so much, Meghna. Very interesting solutions. Pooja, last up from you. Just one of the biggest challenges that parents have today is eating healthy is one, and also eating without any aid around. You know what I mean? Devices and gadgets to help children. So what are your quick tips, takeaways for parents to inculcate, healthy eating habits and independent eating?
Absolutely, yes. One thing that I would like to say, that there has been the underlying subtle message here that has come across through Pooja's and Meghnaji's. This thing is that children like that rhythm and repetition, right? We always keep saying rhythm and repetition. So children like it when they know. So just a common example is that having the assurance that the sun is going to rise every day is what gives you a sense of security, and it is also meeting your physiological needs. So children also like rhythm and repetition, so the parent needs to maintain that for them. Right now, coming to independence, it starts right from birth, in the sense that we talk about, as we are, I'm a lactation consultant, we talk about this phenomenon called breast crawl, wherein a newborn soon after birth is placed on the mother's abdomen, and it finds its way to its source of food on its own. Okay, right, like this baby who's placed on the mother's abdomen right after birth, okay, just they are cleaned and placed, and they know how to find the source of food. They are born with that natural instinct, and it is exercised through this phenomenon called a breast crawl. So this independence, or the using your own senses to guide you for what is right and what is meant for you, is what is we are wired with. So that breast crawl makes the beginning for that. Then you do that breastfeeding on demand. Okay, so nowadays everything is very much like baby led. Okay, so we see that this breastfeeding on demand is also this beautiful structure where this child decides when I'm going to drink milk, when I'm how much I'm going to drink, for how long I'm going to feed. Is so natural that it starts or builds the foundation for child regulating how much they want to eat, when they want to eat. So that again is very important learning for a child, as opposed to a child who is going to be fed artificial milk or any other substitute, wherein the parent sort of decides the quantity and frequency. So that is one. Then from this journey from breastfeeding, as the child transitions to solids, we have now what is the baby led weaning phenomenon. So where you allow this child to become an active partner in the feeding process, rather than being a passive receiver of food from the parent. So here again, this child is learning to eat on their own, and that is the baby led part. So at all of these stages, when you want to also keep reinforcing the independence, firstly, like we said, that you give the right kind of food to the child. That is something you will make a decision for the child, especially when they are younger. You will ensure that it's timed right, because we talk about the rhythm, because that is basically based on their physiological needs. Then there is also the need to keep facilitating the need to change the shape or texture of the food. Okay, so bringing the child to finger foods when they are going to have the palmer grasp, so basically it is graduating from using mostly your palm to then coming to the finger grip. So now in that transition, you are giving them food in that texture or shape, which allows them first to grasp using the palm, and then gradually use fingers, and then come to using just your thumb and forefinger. So that textural gradation to be done in the age appropriate way is also building independence. Then playing with variety again, often as parents we are very very skeptical ourselves about offering a drumstick or a bitter gourd to a child, thinking that, oh, I'm surely going to face rejection. But then like we said, that familiarization is what allows the child to learn to like it. So repeated exposure of that food is what is going to help build the liking for it, and not the fact that a parent is fearful that I'm going to face rejection every time I'm going to give this. So that needs to be taken out, that you ensure that variety is given. Yeah. And then you allow exploration and mess, like Pooja also mentioned that unless you allow the child to explore with food the way they feel is appropriate, which would again, because they are very sensorial, so they would probably end up initially just crushing the food or rubbing it on the table or throwing it and seeing what is happening to it, and gradually think that, okay, by the smell of it and all that and color of it, that okay, I think it can be eaten. So that transition might take time, and again we respect that, and we give them ample time to do that. That exploration and mess, we have to be prepared. So like Meghna ji said, we have to prepare ourselves more than preparing them. So that is the key to some of the factors for building independence. But I would also like to highlight here what inhibits the building of independence. So things like sticking to pureed foods for a 10-month-old child, so that inhibits the independence. Like when this child should have started using their skills to grasp food and eat, we are not giving that, facilitating that environment to allow that. So that could be one of the ways. Then secondly, like using bottles for a very long time, to feed milk, because parents are fearful that okay, they are not eating anything, eventually at least if they will drink milk through the bottle, this will fulfill some of their needs, and this is going to ensure that, I mean, I'm guilt free that the child has at least got something. So continuing bottles for very long time is another hindrance to developing independence, and we have seen this very typically in kids, especially if it is carried on one plus. So that is one thing. Then using distractions so that the child completes the quantity of food that you have decided for the child to complete. So that is again, absolutely detrimental to building independence, because firstly, like I said, if the foundation has been right, that the child has been able to allowed to eat feed as per their requirement, then this child will know that this is the quantity I can eat. So you allow them to decide their portions, and at that time, if you're using distraction so that it satisfies your that it meets your need for perceived amount of food to be consumed, then that is not right. Then giving too many choices also, I feel, sort of inhibits independence, in the sense that it creates a lot of confusion for the child. Okay, so in an age appropriate way, it would mean that I'm telling, I'm giving a choice between, say, using eating a peach versus a pumpkin, I mean peach versus a plum. So that is another a simple choice that I offer. Or okay, instead of pistachios you're eating cashews. This is simple, but that's when, okay, you give them the choice, and when they make a choice and they feel like, oh yes, I'm empowered, like I've made this choice and I'm eating on my own. So with those smaller decision making, you are building the foundation for bigger decision making. But at every time, you are ensuring that you have given the right information to make that decision, right? And also, of course, even Meghna ji said that too much advice and security is also going to hinder independence. So being extremely controlling of don't eat this, don't eat that, or being very emotionally attached to what this child is going to eat or not eat. Like I'm extremely depressed when my child has rejected spinach, whereas my neighbor's son is eating it. That emotional attachment should not come, and that again would be because every child is unique, right? And they have their own trajectory, so they will probably like something at different stages of life, and we must respect that and appreciate that. So that is what would be independence.
That's such a lovely way to, in fact, end this brilliant round of solution to discussing. Each child is unique. They have their own trajectory. They have their own pace, in which they learn to do something independently. It could be eating. It could be something else. And yes, they will make mess. Let's all be ready for it. Let's all be ready to clean up after it. Or they might even start cleaning up. And that's something we also believe in Klay, right? You make the mess, you also clean up. So that's another way in which they sort of independently are responsible for what they do. It's been a brilliant session. I think we might have just about 3-4 minutes to take a few questions that have come our way. I'm going to skip some of the questions you already addressed, in terms of independent eating and gadgets. Meghna, this one is for you. Um, my child needs attention all the time. She cannot play by herself. I give her time, but it's really difficult to play with her all the time. What should I do? Um, Goes back to our independent play. A few points from you would help.
Well, I think my next statement will make this parent really relaxed and happy, because this is a research proven aspect that boredom is brilliant for children. Boredom is brilliant for children. So, my dear mommy or daddy, come out of this myth that it is your job to provide play opportunities to the child. It is your job to find the right kind of toys or puzzles for the child. The two most favorite toys of children across globe: water and sand. So, my friend, you did not create it. So, don't worry that it is your job that you need to find the right kind of avenues for children to keep them occupied. The most important thing for you to do if you have younger children at home, and this is a suggestion for everybody, please go around your home and ensure that your home is child friendly. It is safe for the child to explore. The kitchen dibbas, the spoon and forks, the lids of these dibbas, trust me, they are wonderful manipulatives. And you leave the child with these stuff, your child will find the ways to play. There are many opportunities during the day where you might see that a child will not play with the toy for which it is meant for. They will create something new of that toy. I have seen children making a water can out of those doodles. They have a string attached with the pen, so they never draw something on those doodles and they use it as water can. So this is a wonderful way to allow children to find their own creative ways to get themselves involved, get themselves into a zone where they find solutions for them. Having said that, I say it jokingly and I say it on multiple platforms. I will use the same opportunity here. Is that the best thing is to allow children to find peers. Have you ever seen an adult snatching a toy from a child? And how many times have you seen a child entering into the room and suddenly snatching a toy from the child who's already playing with it? And these are real lessons of life. How do I get my toy back? How do I find my own place? So, my friends, there is no way an adult can become a child for a child. Find as many children as possible, as many peers as possible for your child. Group settings, group plays are wonderful ways where you allow your children to interact with each other and find solutions for themselves. So your job is over on that point. Divya, you are on mute if you're saying something.
Oops. Thank you, Meghna. There's one more question on, and I think there's something all of us can relate to. My child is 4.5 years, loves to dress independently, but sometimes we are running short of time in the morning. What do I do? Intervene or go with the flow? How to inculcate a sense of time in the child?
Dressing, I will tell you one simple phenomenon, parent here. Children across globe, throughout the world, are quicker in learning how to dress themselves by wearing a shirt and pant, but they are little slower in learning how to dress themselves when it comes to socks and shoes. So as parents, we need to know that that they can dress themselves up through shirts and pants quicker, but socks and shoes will come later. So first beautiful thing is to do, I would heavily recommend. I saw one of the questions from a parent also, the milestones for independence. So I would heavily recommend you to at least keep yourself informed. For example, a 6 month old, Pooja must be saying this very soon, is ready to take up the solids. So this is an independence milestone. My 2 year old can carry the school bag from school bus stop to home. How many times have you seen nannies, grandmommies taking the bags of the children? Stop doing that. Your 3 year old is ready to put the shoes on with the Velcro. Your 4 year old is ready to finish a academic task on his or her own. You need not to intervene. Your 6 year old can make a salad for you if you can keep an eye on the knife part of it. Your 8 year old can grab something from the nearby grocery shop and give it back to you, ensuring that he or she is paying the right kind of amount for it. So these are very simple example. In the interest of time, I cannot go on and on, but I would for sure ask parents to take note of the fact that these things will take time. So as long as the child is having age appropriate time to complete a task, allow that to happen. Do not intervene. If you think time is the factor and you really think that my child has to learn this fact, never ever train your child when you are running late. Find some other time if you are really having this struggle in the morning, allow your child to dress himself or herself in the evening. So do not train your children on the tasks that are difficult for them at the same moment. Instead, find a place or time where you are not running late and then train them. I think part of this question I answered, take time for training.
Lovely. Thank you, Meghna. There are multiple other questions, but due to paucity of time, in fact, there are many on behavioral related, aggression related. Children can't take no questions. We will address a separate session. Parents, we'll have a separate session around behavioral challenges. And due to paucity of time, we may not be able to take any more questions. But I want to, before we close the discussion, I would want one final, like the golden takeaway from each of you on what is it that you want to leave our parents with. Just one biggest takeaway from each of you.
Well, I can say one thing. This I myself feel a lot as a mommy too. The most important job of a parent is to teach children that they won't need you in life. And the toughest part in that job is to see success of this. So, my friends, it is easier said than done. But this is a very tough task when your child say goodbye, I'm on my own. But be ready for this. Pat yourself. You have done a great job in parenting.
Yeah, I think my takeaway would be I'm of course speaking from the context of a nutritionist, that currently we are in a very obesogenic environment. That's what, everything around us is just, taking us towards obesity or overweight. So I think the children need freedom from foodism is what I feel. Okay, so they our perception of right quality, quantity, timing of meals and everything, they are born with an innate sense of rhythm and they are aligned with nature better than us. So they need a freedom from foodism and an independence to be able to understand or basically to exercise their decision making in terms of food.
Great takeaways. Meghna, that quote is something that I truly live by. And I'm scared to reach the second part though. I'm still making baby
That's
steps.
the toughest part, Pooja.
Yeah, but I think for me, the takeaway on anything on independence is the fact that we have to sow those seeds and build those roots of responsibility for our kids and watch them while they have those wings of freedom and fly. So that would be my takeaway.
Wow, that really summarizes this wonderful session that we've had today evening, and I'm sure all the parents out there would have taken back home a lot of enriching nuggets from here, and looking forward to having more such sessions from each of you. Thank you so much, Pooja, Meghna, and Pooja Singhania for joining us here on this session. It's been always a pleasure to host you guys at Klay. And thank you, audience. Thank you, parents, for staying on with us for the last hour. We loved having you also being an interactive audience. Please stay tuned for more such sessions, and watch out for more of this coming your way. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks to my co-panelists. What a great learning. And thanks, Divya, for hosting it so beautifully.
Thank you.
Lovely opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.